14.
You're gonna make it 10 minutes.
We're live and we're ready to start. 14.1, potential board action on the personnel consent agenda.
And I will ask that the change be made to reflect Wahib Abdallahadi, that the start date would not be until October 22nd.
I'll second it.
Okay. Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mr. Hillman?
Aye.
Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
Mrs. Callan?
Aye.
Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
And Mrs. Egan?
Aye. Potential board action to approve an unpaid leave of absence. Request for Caitlin McCollum, temporary cleaning employee for October 26th and October 27th.
I'll make the motion.
I have Mrs. Petropoulos on the motion. I have Greg on the second.
Yes.
Mr. Hillman?
Yes.
Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Mrs. Callan? Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
Mrs. Egan?
Aye. 14.3, notification of resignation. 14.4, potential board action to approve the memorandum of agreement with press to include lunch hostess floats, office aides, nurse aides, building secretaries, and building aides.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mrs. Petropoulos on the second. Mrs. Callan? Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Mr. Hillman?
Aye.
Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
And Mrs. Egan?
Aye. 14.5, potential board action to approve the memorandum of understanding with PREA for evaluations during 2021 school year.
I'll make the motion.
I have Ms. Petropoulos on the motion. Mrs. Callan on the second. Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mrs. Callan? Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Mr. Hillman?
Aye.
And Mrs. Egan?
Aye. 14.6, potential board action to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Chicago Ridge Park District, so
Yep.
long as they.
Yeah, and I wanted to just touch base on this. Tomorrow evening is the Chicago Ridge Park District's board meeting that I will be at to answer any questions that they may have. So it is dependent on them also approving it. They are basically, the rental fee is $1. Plus the Freedom Activity Center has been closed down for this entire time. So they would be charging some utilities for us to use it. But we'll have a minimum of 2 rooms, the kitchen and bathrooms for the child care for them to use. So. Ms. Davenport?
Have we determined that the amount of students that can utilize it is sufficient to house the kids that would be needing it for that daycare?
Yeah, so there were 41 students who parents said were interested. In talking with Ivy League, they said when they see who's interested versus who actually ends up signing up, it's almost exactly at that 50% model. So we're talking about probably between 20 and 25 kids right now is what we're anticipating. And there are additional rooms if we had to use them in that same area to space it out more. So.
And they did not have a minimum number of kids that they would do this?
They did not share. They said with that number of who are showing interest that it would be definitely something they would move forward with. So.
And we get a motion? I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Callan?
I'll second.
Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
Mr. Hillman?
Aye.
Mrs. Callan?
Aye.
And Mrs. Egan?
Aye. 14.7, potential board action to approve a contract with Ivy League Kids to provide childcare.
Yes, and that contract would run through the end of this year, December 31st. And we would look in December of how things are going and how things are going for our families to determine if that's something we want to continue depending on where we are at the time. A very standard contract that they use in all of their schools. We've also have our certificate of insurance ready to go. So again, that would start on Monday. And again, it is dependent on the Chicago Ridge Park District also approving tomorrow. Ms. Davenport?
I'm really sorry to ask this question, and I don't know the answer, but I did notice within the contracts that our contract with Ivy Leagues requires Ivy Leagues to name the school district as an additional insured, which is good. But I did notice in the villages and the Chicago Ridge intergovernmental contract that contract requires the school district to name Ivy Leagues as an additional insured. Was that purposeful or, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I read them because I got them, but I printed because they were printed out just now. I don't know if that was purposeful that the intercontinental, I feel like WWF over here. The intergovernmental agreement does say we are supposed to name Ivy Leagues. I don't know if that was a typo. Or if
Yeah,
that was.
and so John Izzo was our attorney who does our contracts outside of Cress and Korea. And he put in here that he made the insurance and hold harmless provisions reciprocal. And so I don't know if that answers your question or not, but I know he put that in on purpose.
Well, the Ivy League contract really is not reciprocal because it just says they are supposed to name us as an additional insured. Which is good. It's good for us. It's good for the school. But the intergovernmental one says we are supposed to name Ivy Leagues, and Ivy Leagues is not a contract to the intergovernmental agreement. So I was just curious on why we would then extend that agreement to name Ivy Leagues as an additional insured under our insurance when they're not even a party to that contract and they've already named us as an additional insured. I don't know.
And I do not know.
It's a horrible last second question to throw out there, but it is just definitely something that I just found odd when I was like reading them today.
And I can definitely reach out to both sides and find out why.
Did we get a vote on that? I'm sorry. Or are we looking for a motion still?
We are still looking for a motion.
On 14.7, looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Is there a second?
Mr. Hillman, was that a second there?
Yes.
And Mr. Hillman with the second. Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Mr. Hillman?
Aye.
Mrs. Callen? Ms. Davenport?
Can I, with the understanding though, that there's going to be at least a little bit of additional conversation with us?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Then aye.
Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
And Mrs. Egan?
Aye. 14.8, potential board action on resolution releasing closed session minutes and destruction of verbatim recordings 18 months and older.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Callen? Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye.
Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mr. Hillman?
Aye.
And Mrs. Egan?
Aye. Potential to adjourn. Any motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Mrs. Petropoulos made the motion at 9:24.
Can I say something before we officially adjourn? I just want to say that I'm not trying to be strange behind my desk. The wheels on my chair are constantly pushing me backwards. So just so everybody knows, like in the camera, it just seems really strange that I keep like doing these weird things, and I'm not trying to be weird. There's definitely something going on with the wheels of the chair.
We will make sure Lori has that in the minutes.
Let the record reflect.
Yes.
Looking for a second to adjourn.
Oh, I'll make a,
I think you, yeah, you're looking for.
I'll second it. Sorry.
Okay. Mr. Hillman?
Yes.
Mrs. Callen? Ms. Davenport?
Aye.
Mrs. Lammel?
Aye.
Mrs. Petropoulos?
Aye, and I hope the ghost of
And Mrs.
Elaine's
Egan.
chair.
Aye.
I want to thank everyone for sticking with us online. I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream and the recording.